Hello everyone, and welcome to my review of the Enemy Within campaign for DCS World. I've just finished going through this campaign on my channel and thought I'd share just my opinion while it's still fresh in my mind. So the campaign is for the A-10C Legacy version or the A-10C2 Tank Killer module. It was designed for the former, but it works perfectly well with the new expansion, and that's the one that I've been playing it with. And the setting is a counterinsurgency operation, where in Georgia there is a fictional CLA terrorist movement in the north. They've basically seized the entirety of the mountainous region of Georgia. But since Georgia in this has been accepted as a potential applicant to NATO send a flight of A-10s in order to support them. You fly those A-10s trying to take out the CLA while learning what is backing them and who their secret allies are. So, no point bearing the lead, I absolutely loved this campaign. It's right up there with the Jagdflieger campaign as my favourite DCS campaigns that I've tried so far. And this is due to a number of things. First off, the voice acting. The voice acting is absolutely first rate, and there is a lot of it. Most of the story of the campaign is given to you in mission with the voices going back and forth. They really do add a huge amount of immersion, and there's just constantly throughout every mission, you've got so much there. And they certainly seem to have got local voice actors for the various accents that are going on. You've got Polish, Georgian, Israeli troops there, and that really helps sort of bring you into it. The other thing I really love is the variety of the missions. When I saw that there was 21 missions in the campaign, I kind of assumed that there's going to be a fair bit of repetition. But I really didn't feel that. No two missions really felt the same. And it's not just a difference of your targets or where you're fighting, but also in the pacing of the missions. You've got some that are very relaxed, where you are setting the pace, so you can take your time, spot your targets, go in as and when you feel safe. And then there are other missions where you are forced to constantly react to what the enemy are doing with very little warning, having to go in at the drop of a hat in order to save friendly troops. And there are plenty of missions that are a mix of the two, where you may be in charge of kicking things off, but after that everything goes to hell and you're forced to rapidly react. Some missions are nice, short and sharp, some missions do last a very long time, and I've got to say, for a DCS campaign, there are a lot of real standout missions here. I find that in a lot of the campaigns, quite a lot of the missions blur together. You maybe have one or two standouts. Most of them are just sort of your average going through the motions. But here there are so many memorable missions that I'm looking back on. The Scramble mission is definitely one of my highlights, but so is the Valley Runs, the nighttime operations, the very low cloud cover operations. They're all really cool. And probably the Schaefer mission's the one that stuck the most in my mind. And story-wise, it's probably had me invested in the plot of the campaign more than any other, with me genuinely trying to sort of work out what's going on, who could be backing these various people, trying to work out what's behind the scenes, as it were. I can't say that's something I've done in any of the other campaigns I've played so far. That's not to say it's not a perfect campaign. There are a few little things that annoyed me just a little bit. And I guess the big one is the sheer amount of times that your AI wingman will crash into a mountainside. A big part of the challenge of this campaign is it's mostly set in the mountainous northern Georgia region, and that is really hard for A-10s to fly through. Certainly not to say it's unrealistic. I can 100% see politicians sending the wrong airframe into war just as a political statement. But on so many missions, my AI wingman has just slammed into the side of a mountain, and that's really left me at a disadvantage. Now, I know that that's not the fault of the campaign developer. The AI pathfinding is very much DCS's core job, but they still did design these missions to put the AI in that situation. And unfortunately, another big part of the challenge of various missions comes from fairly limited loadouts, where you have to make every weapon count, and so you are very much reliant on your AI wingman carrying their own weight and delivering their own ordnance, which they can't do if they park their plane on the side of a cliff within the first 5 minutes of combat. And so multiple times I've kind of been thrown out of the action by the fact I'm all of a sudden having to deal with a very gamey feeling situation where my wingman has failed for the 10th time in the campaign and just parked his plane where it really shouldn't be. My other kind of issue, it's a fairly personal one, but just some of the missions dragged a little bit. I mentioned the Schaefer mission, that is certainly one of the standout memorable missions, but it really did go on a little bit too long, I felt. Lots of loitering after doing very hard segments, and so you start to really worry about that you're just going to lose all of this progress if something crops up in the last 10 minutes. Certainly does add tension, but I just found some of those missions just wore on me just a little bit. And finally, there were a couple of very minor bugs that I encountered, mostly with the voice acting scripting, just voice stabs going off at the wrong time or going off in the wrong order. Normally wouldn't be a very big issue, but because this is such a story-focused campaign, that would just be nice to be a little bit better polished. But really, those are very, very minor little things compared to a very, very good, very strong campaign. So overall, my recommendation, I give this a massive thumbs up. If you have either the A-10C Legacy module or the A-10C2, this is a fantastic campaign. Comes with the default Caucasus map, so no additional maps are required. Very, very much worth the purchase. And I'd recommend this to A10 pilots really no matter what level you're at. If you've just picked up the module and you want a mission, a campaign even, to help practice and learn the module, this is really good. It starts off very, very simple, employing things like guns early on, then slowly working up to more complicated tasks, and then by the end you're dropping multiple bombs all at once, taking on air assets, ground assets, doing things on the fly, and so a nice starter campaign. If you're really experienced and you absolutely know what you do, this is still a really good challenge if you want to try 100%ing a lot of the missions. Some are really, really challenging to get all of those optional objectives. I absolutely failed and left many optional objectives out there. Tanks got away, optional targets got away just because I wasn't quick enough. And if you're in the situation that I was going into this, where you know the A10, you're pretty confident, but you'd like to get sort of more fluency, more practice, this is absolutely ideal. I'm coming out of this campaign feeling much, much happier with the A-10C than I've ever been before, and I've had this module for years. So yeah, for me, this is a big, big thumbs up. Well worth the purchase, well worth digging into, and I'm certainly looking forward to doing more campaigns by this developer in the future. So if you agree with me or disagree with me, please do leave your comments down below. I'd love to see what you all thought of this campaign, and I hope to catch you in a future video. Until then, remember to be kind to yourself and everyone else. Cheers!